Perfect. So there we go. Welcome to today's Swarm session, where we go through a Swarm reflection from the very beginning, when whole Swarm stuff started in 2021 until today. Today we have September the 23rd, something like this, 2023. And this session, we go a little bit on looking what has been done by Swarm so far in the past. Very first, all started 2021 in Cardano and Project Catalyst. We had the initial sparks of the Swarm emergence. So, Project Catalyst is Cardano's innovation fund who started late 2020 and then really started to kick off in early 2021. And this was the environment where a lot of the people who actually led to the Swarm emergence met each other and started to collaborate. How all this looks like is like this. The very first thing which emerged was the Swarm sessions. Swarm sessions have been open community events where anybody who was in Project Catalyst engaged had the possibility to join. And the main purpose of Swarm sessions was really to look on improving and reflecting on Project Catalyst as whole, not on our very own projects or ideas or visions. And to really have this common ground for all these different projects, individuals, and perspectives to come together and to look on Project Catalyst, evolutions, ideas, improvements as a whole. The Swarm sessions also helped us to really ideate and explore some well-working online community event formats, which we then translated into the after town hall. This was let's say, improved version of the Swarm sessions. And once again, was really this open community space where community members, builders, visionaries, enthusiasts, punks and pioneers came together to speak about Cardano, Catalyst, projects, ideas, and whatnot as well. One thing what we recognized quite early is that we mostly had everything in English only and a very Western society, let's say, centric ecosystem. And we wanted to change this and really reach out to much more, let's say, local communities on the ground, which have been in place already. And this is when we started to initiate the very first Eastern Town Hall, where we brought community leaders from the Indonesian, Vietnamese, and Japanese community together and to figure out how we can build processes and systems which allow really effective collaborations, not only across individuals and projects, but also across languages and cultures. One thing what played out in the Eastern Town already very early is that we saw the experiences and learnings and the knowledge what we built through Swarm sessions after Town Hall helped us a lot in initiating this new Town Halls, though we have been also aware that we want to become obsolete. So the main objective was really introducing learned lessons, processes, tools, and whatnot, but to not keep control of these spaces and to make sure that this is really run by our own communities. In this regard, then from community leaders from the Eastern Town Hall. The key learnings there, we brought further and said, oh, cool, let's continue this because this was actually a really impressive experience. And this led us to the initiation of the Latin American Town Hall, where we once again each time improved and followed the same format. All the key learnings from previous engagements have been gathered, translated, and shared to new communities. And also in the regard that Swarm usually led the creation of first proposals in Catalyst to enable very first fundings to operate these town halls. And then in a later stage already said, hey, now, dear town hall teams, it's fully up to you to create these proposals now. And Swarm from a very proactive role switched back to a very much more consulting, advising role to make sure as well that, if Swarm would go, all these town halls would still operate. In the meantime, it was a little bit in the time between after town hall and initiation of the Eastern Town Hall that a lot of members which met in Swarm started to collaborate to set up a Catalyst group. Because we said, oh, cool, now we start to bring a lot of new people in. Oh, we must make sure that they are well educated as well. So Catalyst School was really about this and to effectively educate and onboard people into the ecosystem to specific roles, like proposers or reviewers, voters or referrers, and all that. And from there, then another initiative, also not directly related to Catalyst School, but very much after all anyway, Adjei launched the very first Catalyst Circle, which was a back then human sensor array, where we had community elected representatives from the community coming together and building a bridging, aimed or tried to build a bridging piece between the community and the founding entity of Catalyst, which Adjei. Then Swarmforce have been very engaged as well in getting up additional support bodies around the Catalyst Circle, which was the CC admin team, which was the Catalyst Circle admin team, and they really built a supporting layer and network around the Catalyst Circle to support and improve overall performance there. This was a little bit the most stuff where we could observe, oh, okay, Swarm was really sparking elements in this initiative. We have the Swarm logo here, but this doesn't mean that Swarm was running the stuff. Swarm helped a lot in the initiation and setup, but as mentioned already beforehand, Swarm never took control of any of the stuff and really aimed to become obsolete as soon as possible and just be a supporting and engaged participant. That's so far to Swarm 2021. And at the end of the year, we initiated a Swarm stake pool on the Cardano blockchain as well, which is still up, still running. We have more than 1,500 minted blocks so far, I think, which is pretty awesome. Also, huge thanks to Cardano Foundation, who supports this a lot. Then 2021 came to an end, and we moved over to 2022. We can mainly focus on two main parts, which was one, the continuation of everything what was already started in Cardano Project Catalyst, and that we start to adapt everything into new ecosystems as well, and more to this now. So starting where we ended, this is just where we went through in 2021. The third thing, what happened in 2022 is that the setup of the town halls, which we had now already in the Eastern Hemisphere and in Latin America, that we pushed forward on this and started to set up an African, Pacific, and European town hall. And with all of this to really create a now fully global operating network of independent and fully self-governed town halls, which all of them onboard, introduce, and educate community members into the Cardano ecosystem. Another really remarkable thing what happened is that we had the first Eastern Catalyst School coming up, which now took all the lessons from the Catalyst School and translated this into their own languages. It has been a really beautiful experience as well. Worked quite well. And yeah, so was once again a really nice accelerator in building this global bottom-up grassroots network of engaged people in the ecosystem. Then from the CC admin team, we also learned a lot in this very specific roles and groups, because we had facilitators and secretaries and documentations and treasury. And there we started to go into the setup of first guilds. The first one was the Ambassadors Guilds, where Cardano ambassadors actually came together, where we applied these working processes and methodologies. Then we had the emergence of the NFT Guild, where it was really all about NFT standards and metadata and whatnot. So not JPEG monkeys, but really on the tech side of things. And from the CC admin team, very early, there emerged already the Treasury Guild, which became one of our most impressive projects, actually, still doing a lot today in building treasury systems. Then, over time, we saw also that the CC admin team became itself our own entity, the Governance Service Guild, which decoupled itself pretty much from the Catalyst Circle and really with the aim and the focus to capture and cover governance at large, not only on Catalyst. then the most coolest thing in 2022 appeared. We started early 2022 to engage heavily in Singularity. There, we mostly focused on two parts. The first one is deep funding, which is SingularityNet's innovation fund, where our very first implementation was a deep funding town hall. So once again, all the experience was taken now and translated over there. The second part was the Singularity Ambassadors program. For my part, I mostly focused on deep funding. Tevo focused a lot on the Singularity Ambassadors program. And in the Ambassadors program, we mostly, once again, adapted this learnings from the Cardano Catalyst ecosystem and set up the structure of guilds and work groups. So, said that, we saw already that we had a really, really nice translation from our knowledge, experience, and expertise, which we built and gained in Cardano Catalyst ecosystem over to a totally new ecosystem now, which has been quite impressive. And we are building up on this as well. Now moving into 2023. So where we go mostly on the two main topics, like improving incubations, and then at last pass, just initiating ecosystem bridges. What this exactly means, we are looking now. So the very first guild who actually established there was the Treasury Guild. So that we translated all our service from the Treasury system over to the Singularity Ambassadors program. And over the year 2023, spin off a bunch of guilds then. Process Guild, Gamers Guild, Incubation Guild, Marketing Guild, and Strategy Guild. Each of those guilds are created and led by community members from the Singularity and ecosystem themselves, and as well to work groups. While guilds focus on much more broader areas, such as incubation or process or strategy, work groups focus much more on very specific areas, such as translation or video, writing content, so content creation, and yes. And we saw also like archival work group was a quite interesting part because this came also a lot from Governance Service Guild, where we had Q&A though, establishing really strong knowledge and expertise and setting up documentation and archive for community projects, and arrived really well to translate their knowledge and services to this ecosystem then as well. Another really interesting part happened then when we had initial first calls with Singularity and Foundation and said, hey, we would really like to deepen our engagements with Singularity and ecosystem. And said, hey, how would it sound like if Swarm works for you and helps you to build up this community architecture? They agreed to this, which means, for example, that community events like Deep Funding Town Hall or Deep Funding Idea Fest are funded directly by the Singularity and Foundation, so we don't have to do proposals for them. And also Tevo and me to take lead there, we are rewarded as well on a monthly basis, also including the task and treasury systems which we implemented, which also allows us to capture a fee from each done task, not on the ambassadors program, but the deep funding, and directly translates back into the treasury system. For deep funding, the treasury system has a monthly fee. Then, and this is in progress, but started already, we had some first initial links already from Cardano Catalyst ecosystem to SingularityNet. So how can we increase this and really build this cross-ecosystem, cross-community network, where we then initiated proposal for deep funding town hall expansions, where we now link the deep funding town hall back to the Cardano town halls, starting with Eastern, Latam, and Africa, where proposals are submitted. Another one as well is where we collaborate with Jimba Labs and Andamio to set up a deep funding academy as a successor, where we take all our experience and learnings from the Catalyst school and translate it to a deep funding ecosystem, as well as a deep funding token focus group, where we collaborate with the NFT Guild. Figure out, okay, how can we build much more like community token systems in which we can ensure that we don't have to do all decision-making processes with monetized tokens like ADA or AGIX. And that's pretty much it to this visual part. So what is kind of impressive is none of this stuff was pre-architectured. This pretty much emerged itself. And that we have this is now really a reflection and observation, not a plan. Nothing of this is ideated long beforehand. These are really actions which emerge by community members who come together and collaborate and engage in the specific initiatives. Then when looking on all this, we can actually summarize a little bit our strength, which is observed through the past. In one category, really what is about tools and community capacity engines. What this means is we are really good in building treasury systems. We have built quite some strong experience and expertise in ideating task-based operation systems, which allow a much more distributed way of organizing groups in a public accessible manner as well. They've been really good in setting up community operation spaces, such as town halls, guilds, work groups, etc. And we became quite masters in setting up and executing community events and workshops. Another quite fascinating part as well is to see which technologies we mostly feel attracted to, which is in the first part, distributed ledger technology, blockchain technology, SWIGART. We have a very strong traction towards open source and feel very committed there. And the same to artificial intelligence and machine learning, towards artificial general intelligence as well. This for me actually the most coolest part is that we really see over all these emerging actions we can see emerging. Not sure if societies is the right word or nations or whatnot, but community is actually not the right word, because communities don't create own economies and governments and tools and whatnot. And also comparing to the history of humankind, I would compare it mostly to a re-renaissance. We have much more in similar with what happened back then in the Renaissance than what happened, for example, in revolutions, like the Industrial Revolution or whatnot in this regard. Where we are really good in this setting up a culture, actually, for the societies in which people feel engaged and empowered to act, to engage, and to stay. That we are really good in building up these emerging networks, which I also like to call trust nets, because the trust between individuals, projects, groups, communities, and ecosystems is something insanely strong. So usually the bridges which we are created are not toxic environments. So usually very strong environments where people definitely feel that they can do stuff. And that we really have a very strong empathy on knowledge and knowledge management and sharing. To say that, okay, everything, what we learn, we should share it with others so that they can benefit from our actions and past and don't have to do the same mistakes, and that they are able to benefit from what we have done before. And that's pretty much it. This is what Swarm has done over the last 9 months, something like this now. It has been quite impressive actually when looking on this like that. And with this to the most important slide is, no, I jumped one. I forgot this one. Yes, or let's say observer drivers is that we focus really on collaboration is really important for us. Like fuck off roles, fuck off status, fuck off titles and qualifications and whatnot. Let's come together on a human layer and do great things with people which are smarter and greater than us ourselves very often. In the environments we grow, we are by default doomed to innovate all the time. Because in the environments which we grow, they are never the same. So we have to change every day, every week, every month, every year. And this leads us to a really strong position where we are. Innovation for us, it's not a word or slogan, it's really written in our DNA, actually. And the last one is that we are really good at adaptability and to adapt insanely quick and effective to whatever new situations or environments. It's really strong. And then the most important slide is the people. There have been shitload of people building, writing, creating on the story, like Nori, Caue, Pete, Jonathan, JP, Filip, Dominik, Victor, Phil, Lucio, André, Miro, Felix, Tevo, Stephen, Vanessa, Zoe, Randall, Yoram, Sebastian, George, Steve, Curtis, Natalie und Juana, Nadim, Uvio, Kenrick, Livia, Harry, Jan, Me, Jutta, Andreas, Tien, Alex, Lucas, Juana, Juanita, Mauro, Rodolfo, Juan, Afia, Daniel, Ricardo, Juliana, Jeremy, Antonio, and Rajh, Anna Maria and Rajh, Santiago, Marcos, Martin, Jean, Pete, Raphael, Grandano, Tommy, Rojo, Slade and Malik, David, Sukrin, Kenichi, Jingles, Marek, and Danny have all been important people who help to build whatever Swarm is and may become. Next to this, there are people who really would say inspire Swarm very heavily, such as James Dunside from Chamber Labs and the whole Chamber Labs crew. Amazing people there. Same counts to Mercy and Wada, to Darlington from Light Nation, to Einstein from Nordic Ada, Fabian, the ambassador, Tommy Camera from the Cardano Foundation, who supports and helps us a lot, Dorgabash, now at Radical Ecosystems, Jan Horlings, who really gave us the chance to get everything from Swarm into Singularity and Foundation, and Mihaolia Orieru, who is a bit everywhere. So to all these people, everything what was before of the slides only happened because of these individuals and many, many, many more, far too much to write on a single slide, but wanted to mention the ones who really stepped up over average constantly and who did a lot. And yeah, thanks a lot to all of these people. And I hope this presentation is a little gift back to you to actually visualize and to show what we all together did and achieved in the last years. This is definitely remarkable. And now we are here and thinking about what next? And what next? What next? We don't know yet. But we maybe will find out. And with this, we stop the recording and have a beautiful discussion with Swarm Folks here.